Hello, everyone. I'm Ananda, the Galactic Mystic, and welcome to my channel and welcome to the full moon in Taurus lunar eclipse. And we have quite a lot to talk about. So let's not delay, let's get right to it. Welcome, everyone. I hope you are doing well and taking good care of yourselves. This Taurus full moon lunar eclipse will be our final eclipse of 2022. Now, this eclipse on November 8th, 2022, at 16 degrees of Taurus. This is a culmination of the new moon solar eclipse we had in Taurus earlier this year. That eclipse, that new moon eclipse, was conjunct Uranus, and this full moon lunar eclipse is conjunct Uranus with a whole bunch of other players. There's so much astrological energy in this eclipse. Um, it's not going to be a relaxing event. But it is important to remember that even though, the full moon is one day, the eclipse is one moment in time, this is a longer cycle that began in April with that first solar eclipse new moon in Taurus. And it will continue its cycle to completion on May 19th, 2023, which is our next new moon in Taurus. Now, that will be after the first eclipse season of 2023, and we actually have a full moon eclipse in Scorpio on May 5th, 2023. So I always like to mention this, that even though we're talking about these energies in this now moment, and no doubt they will affect us now, particularly because this is a full moon eclipse. So its energies are multiplied. It's a more powerful than usual full moon. And Taurus full moons are always powerful because Taurus is a very physical sign. And when energies affect us physically, we tend to notice it. Even folks who aren't particularly tuned into their emotions, their emotional body or their spiritual bodies, or the etheric worlds or the other worlds or the veil or any of that, most people definitely notice when things affect them physically. This is happening at a world degree, and a world degree it's a degree of the zodiac where when astrological events happen on this degree, it affects everyone, like literally the whole world. There's something that the whole world notices. Now, of course, this is election day. The other thing that's really interesting to me as an astrologer is we have this record-breaking Powerball prize. I'm recording this on Monday, and Monday is the drawing for that record top prize of all time. And I think that is just fascinating because Taurus is the sign of money and resources. Uranus is the sign of shocks, awe, surprises, really shaking things up. And then we also have Venus, another money planet, and Mercury, a planet that is about agreements and paper and, things that we write, things like that. So it's a textbook kind of situation. And it's just kind of astro nerdy to see that happening at this time. Now, of course, election day as well, you know, there's a lot in the air. There's a lot of tension, and this is not going to be a relaxing event. And because of that, we really need to look deeply into the lessons of Taurus. Taurus is the most natural sign. This is the sign of nature, of the earth. This is fixed earth. It's grounded, it's solid, it's heavy. And when we think of that in more spiritual terms, the request of this cycle is about having that inner fortitude, that inner strength that gives us the ability to be flexible, to pivot, and to stay sane in a world of rapid change, situations and things just happening around us at a very fast rate. This is also a total lunar eclipse, which makes it even more rare. The next total lunar eclipse will not be until 2025. So it's not like decades as in rare, but they don't happen every year. This is an electrifying full moon. This is a peak. And as we peak collectively and individually, we are stepping into our next level of growth. And honestly, if something ends, if something doesn't go the way you wanted it to go or thought it would go in your life, if something feels like it's taking you, off the track you were on, there's most likely a really good reason for it. And there's a level of trust that if we could just embrace, it will help us sort of drop that inner anchor and be like, okay, we've got this. Flexibility and open-mindedness so we can be adaptable. And that comes from that inner strength of Taurus. How to be sane in a crazy world. This full moon lunar eclipse is happening on November 8th, 2022 at 6:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is at 16 degrees and 1 minute of Taurus. It is conjunct Uranus, conjunct the North Node. It's opposing the South Node, opposing Mercury, of course, opposing the sun because it's a full moon, and opposing Venus. And then all of this is squaring Saturn. We have a huge T-square. And T-squares, just their nature is tense. An interesting thing about whenever we have Moon Uranus contacts, this is also something that I see in synastry with people when they experience love at first sight. So it represents this flash of emotional experience, a lightning bolt emotionally. And that can take many forms, can't it? Because this is aligned with the North Node, what happens during this cycle, and like I said, not just today, we are still looking at the next 6 months for all of this to unfold under the energy of this full moon lunar eclipse. But everything that happens is taking us in the direction that we are meant to be going. The North Node, the collective North Node, is humanity as a whole, where we are guided to grow during this time. And generally, it feels uncomfortable. We invite our discomfort to the table. We invite our anger to the table. And we can look at them each individually square in the eye. That's the nature of the feminine, the womb, the circular, cyclical nature of the natural world that Taurus is begging us to embrace more and more and more, all the time more. Because we have so many planets involved, there's a huge variety of personal experiences that are available to us. We have this, what I mentioned, the love at first sight, or that, oh my gosh, surprise in a wonderful way. We have, this conjunction with Mercury and Venus and the sun, which is, giving us more awareness, more ability to see through loving eyes, more communicative or more aware of the messages that we want to speak. But we have the South Node here flavoring this with all a little bit of discomfort, brings up karmic stuff, you know, choices for us to make. Because of all these oppositions, these often represent choices, something that we have to face and a choice that we must make. But then all of this is squaring Saturn, who's kind of putting the brakes on it. He's, Saturn in a square like this, particularly with Venus and the moon, when he is here in a hard aspect with these tender, loving planets, it can often be very painful, and we can have some sobering interactions with people in our lives where we either experience a rejection of our tender nature, or we are the ones doing the rejection of someone else's revealed open heart to us. And nobody is perfect. We all have crappy days. We all have times that we don't respond to someone we care about in a way that we would prefer. And so my gentle request is to be gentle with yourself, be gentle with others. This is the Chandra symbol, the inside degree based on the work of Ellias Lonsdale. A pomegranate broken open, the spilling out of blood and guts, arriving at the critical point where it all comes out. Huge relief and release, something held forever with great tension and pressure. Yet destiny brings such a reckoning of all the places at once that you will postpone it as long as you can. The freeing up of karmas when all else is lost, the glory in defeat. The great turnaround is always in you, and waiting for it is the hardest thing you will ever do. It has to be so ripe to bursting, the moment that counts. Timing is the great art. Everyone freed as you are freed, nothing held back any longer, ever again. Now that is so powerful, because while this is only a description of this 1 degree of Taurus, it's fascinating how it encompasses Uranus, Venus, everything that we're seeing, all the planetary players here. So it speaks of this critical point where everything is released, something that's been held in forever, and it's destined. It frees us up. It frees up karma, and there's a great turnaround. But timing is important. With this being at a world degree, that I feel like this says something to where we are going together, and on an individual personal level. We are experiencing the micro of that macro in our own lives. I also think it's fascinating that the title for this degree is A Pomegranate Broken Open. Pomegranates are known as the food of the dead. They're connected with Persephone and the underworld and immortality. In Greek mythology, it was believed that Venus is the one who planted the first pomegranate tree. And so there were also associations with love and fertility and beauty. And it's also interesting that in ancient Greece, pomegranates were also thought to be a type of birth control. That's interesting in our political climate right now, and just sort of the themes of the feminine, the feminine. Taurus is a feminine energy, a feminine sign. And as we navigate this patriarchal world, she is always calling us home. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus is conjunct the blaze star. The blaze star. How magical does that sound, right? So the blaze star is also called T Corona Borealis. And she's actually a nova in the constellation Corona Borealis, which is also called the Northern Crown. Now, this star or this nova is thought to represent the crown of Ariadne, who was the wife of Dionysus, the god of wine and ecstatic madness, among other things. Now, in ancient Syria, Corona Borealis, or the blaze star, was associated with a version of Ishtar, who was the goddess of life, sexuality, and fertility, and who, we kind of correspond to Venus, both as a planet and as a goddess. Ariantrud, I'm probably not saying that correctly, but Ariantrud is a Celtic goddess. She's a moon goddess, and her name means silver wheel. She's also a goddess of the dead, and this is really interesting. She's connected with reincarnation and karma and, guiding the dead to the afterworld. And it was believed that she lived in the Aurora Borealis. So isn't this fascinating? We have the connections of the pomegranate with this star, the blaze star, this nova, and the goddess, the moon goddess. Now, another interesting thing, I'm nerding really hard on this because the large Magellanic cloud, which this full moon is conjunct, is located inside the constellation of the swordfish, called Dorado. Now, the delta star of this constellation happens to be the South Pole star of our moon. To take this further, this tells me that there is a very deeply woven energy of the goddess. We are in the season of Samhain now, the season of the dark mother, the crone or the hag or the wisdom keeper. And when we're talking about the moon, there is an inherent energy of things that are sort of unconscious and veiled and mysterious and unable to really make concrete. With this being connected to the moon's South Pole star, this is an extra dose of passionate learning in that space of mystery. What can we learn if we allow ourselves to just be excited about the unfolding and not stubbornly attached to things being linear, aka the patriarchal way? The way from here to there is not a straight line. And these themes of circular living, circular healing, our consciousness ebbing and flowing, the natural cycles of life are deeply embedded in the message of this full moon lunar eclipse. Can we remain flexible, adaptable, open to passionate learning in a new mysterious environment. Much love to you at this fated time. I wish you deep peace. Let me know how you're doing. I will see you very soon.